Hi guys, back in Illinois. Just got back tonight. Super fun. My hair's kind of a mess, so just listen to me. Okay, so week 20's Viva was how did the 1950s deal with the lingering traumas of the Second World War. So although we tend to view the 1950s as a socially conservative and restrictive era, Americans deal with the aftermath of the Second World War by embracing social conformity and group identities in many different forms. So we see this in suburban bougie lifestyle. Young urbanites embraced a neo-Bohemian identity, and the academic and upper middle class embraced Marxist identity. So we can kind of see this. I think we've talked about even with World War I, World War II. It seems to be, I feel like I always yawn during Vivas. It seems to be an underlying theme that people gravitate towards groups. So the first kind of group we're going to be talking about is the suburban bourgeois. I know how to say this word, but I don't know how to the right tense. Bougie. I'm just gonna say bourgeois. Bourgeois lifestyle, which sought to lose itself in consumerism and social compliance. So social compliance is looked on as really virtuous. Last one. Okay. We can see this in dating, for example. During the 1950s, dating was became a lot more common versus people being like, oh, I'm gonna marry you, but it was more of oh, let's go out on a date, and it was still with the intentions of marriage, but not really as strict, I guess. So dating became more common, and there were also lots of rules about dating, and usually it has the men has to a lot of them. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop yawning. A lot of them are just kind of general, I feel gentlemen, rules. If you're a gentleman, I feel you're gonna do these rules. So it's just really respectful rules, really gentlemanly rules. So a couple of examples are, a man had to ask a woman out on a date. So women, shut up and wait. When a girl was asked out, she couldn't she had to immediately say yes or no, so she couldn't be maybe I'll think about it. And also before the date, the guy had to meet the parents before a date, which is kind of good, kind of like that. So we also get new terms in with this new style of dating, like keen. I've heard this word actually a lot, which is kind of cute. But it kind of just means you like somebody, you're keen on somebody, you like it, and it doesn't have to do with dating. It could be you could use it in another context. And also going steady means that you're kind of dating for a while, and it's going well, and you're gonna kind of be boyfriend and girlfriend. So yeah, that's just kind of an example of how social compliance is seen as virtuous. I think I'm just really tired. So we also kind of see this in cars. They become a symbol of masculinity and kind of individual identity. But also with this, I think we can kind of look at it as the Great Depression too, as people went into more and more debt because they were financing more and more stuff. But that's just a downside if you want to be an individual and masculine. Also rock and roll. This is a time period when people finally have money to spend on some fun stuff versus practical. So they spend money on records and concerts, and rock and roll really grows. And this rock and roll kind of really defines the differences between the youth and the adulthood. Another thing we can look at is fashion. There's a lot more mass production, which kind of leads to more fashion trends. So that kind of leads to I can't read what I wrote, whatever. It leads to more trends and more group identity within the bourgeois community. Also TV unified America, kind of, and I guess around the world, because it was the first time when everybody was watching like the same program at the same time. So TV kind of unified people. And also food. We kind of talked about this a few weeks ago with how World War II kind of led to the start of fast food and canned and processed food, because the soldiers didn't really have access to fresh vegetables and fruit. So fast food becomes popular, and we see nationwide restaurant chains kind of open, like McDonald's. So John Fawcett says, as Americans, we love the pragmatic, the bold, and the different, but sometimes sacrifice over historical consciousness or the altar of innovation, end quote. And so he's basically kind of talking about just like the culture of America is individualism. And so people with bourgeois lifestyle, especially suburban lifestyle, really led to individualism, but also fashion, like trends, and kind of like a certain way you did, like a certain culture, but also it allowed room for individuality and capitalism. So yeah, moving on to point 2, we have the young urbanites that embraced neo-Bohemian identity. So they embrace this neo-Bohemian identity, which is built on individualism and jazz, abstract art, and beat poetry. So this is kind of like the, not the opposite, but like kind of like a different, like you either kind of lived in consumerism and the bourgeois suburban lifestyle, or you kind of lived in these urbanite neo-bohemian style. So it's kind of anti-consumerism, and we get a lot of hippies kind of people just like trying to be cool and go with the beat, and it's kind of more about individual identity versus trends and seeking out what is popular or hip of the time. So we see beat poetry and jazz kind of come up in this, and abstract art. Yes, abstract art. Like Jackson Pollock. He kind of just splatted some paint on a thing, and it is kind of, he says it's kind of like music because it is emotions and abstract. So yeah, the Beat Generation though was this literary movement formed by a group of authors during this time who this movement really just influenced culture and politics. Some of their like elements within them was the rejection of standard narrative values, making a spiritual quest, explore America and Eastern religions, rejection of economic materialism, and experiments with drugs and sexual liberation. Talk about a fun time. So you can kind of see this where it's kind of this like, whatever you want, man, peace out, kind of lifestyle, and it's just the opposite of good old bourgeois lifestyle. So point 3, my card says data, is how the economic and upper classes really embraced this new approach of Marxist identity. So, yeah, as we kind of know, I learned from history, or I guess, is a saying that all, like, Marxism, socialism, fascism, it all leads to communism. So Marxism is going to lead to communism, but people, I don't know if they don't know it yet or just are blinded by the idea of communism or Marxism. But they reject consumption, and they wanted to kind of simplify, and so they really wanted to make everything like everybody. So, basically communism. So they collectivism, that's the right word. So they wanted like ownership, control, collective property, and money and different things. All people owned it equally, and it was all controlled by the government. So what could go wrong? I don't know. So we also get centralization opposed to individualism, because everybody kind of comes around this group identity. I don't remember. Oh, okay. So, there is a secret mission throughout this time period, which is by some five Cambridge students. They were a spy group, Cambridge 5, that's what they're called, Cambridge 5 group. And all the members were kind of from this upper middle ruling class. They were very influential in the British government. And so they were 5 men, and they were spies for the Soviet Union. And so they came to America during the Cold War, and they spied on America, and they basically, they didn't get caught, but like they got found out, and they didn't get charged for any crimes they committed. So I don't know, but just like after this, I think communism kind of becomes more confident and louder spoken, and so people like hold on to communism, even though the USSR just got over this really bad leader, Stalin. So, but they're still like, no, communism is the right way to go, even though we see Stalin and Hitler kind of show that communism does not work. So Kin Philippi was one of the spies, and he says, quote, it cannot be very surprising that I adopted a communistic viewpoint in the 1930s. So many of my competitors made the same choice, end quote. Wait. I don't know how to say that word, whatever. I think I wrote that wrong. But anyways, the point of this Viva is that communism kind of comes to a rise, trends and we get more popular trends, and people are able to kind of embrace the individualist ideas that America offers, and we also kind of get these hippie, whatever goes, like, don't embrace society kind of people. So just different groups of people that kind of rise, and they all kind of like are very confident, I feel like. So although we tend to view the 1950s as a social, conservative, and restrictive era, Americans dealt with the aftermath of the Second World War by embracing social conformity and group identities in many different forms. And again, it did this through the pursuit of suburban bourgeois lifestyle. The young Urbanites embraced a neo-Bohemian identity, and the academic and upper middle class embraced Marxist identity. So, that's it. Goodbye, I'll see you tomorrow.